This iPhone 17e isn't very interesting, but maybe that's exactly what makes it interesting. Let me explain. You probably know we're not in a great economic situation right now. I don't know where things stand at the time you're watching this video, but let's just say that some pretty severe economic crises are looming on the horizon. Not to mention the rising cost of electronic components because of artificial intelligence. And in this context, Apple is offering a 17e at the same price as 16e, 719 euros, which isn't expensive for Apple. It's entry level, not low end. But you could almost wonder if Apple is offering us the crisis iPhone. Could we call it the iPhone for tough times? And that's what interests me in testing this 17e, putting it into a broader context. This new Apple strategy we're seeing emerge, new products without any fuss, basic, but keeping the essentials like the screen and the Apple experience at prices that are pretty affordable for Apple, the MacBook Neo, and now this iPhone 17e. Last year, I didn't really like the iPhone 16e because I felt it offered more of a low-end experience than an entry-level one. Yes, there's a difference. Did Apple manage to keep the essential iPhone experience at this lower price this year? Let's find out right now. For context, we bought this iPhone 17 with the channel's money. We've been testing it for a month. This won't be a review where we bury you under specifications. Instead, we're going to share our opinion on this iPhone 17, put it in the context of Apple's marketing, and try to understand their strategy. It's a strategy I started to analyze a bit in the MacBook Neo review. If you missed the video, we'll put it somewhere for you. But before we get started, a few words about our sponsor. And our sponsor today is the HubSpot Tiny 3 Lite Trolite. I have to say it slowly, because otherwise I say Twilight and it's not a vampire story at all. It's a mini pan tilt camera that will follow you everywhere. Because imagine you're filming with the iPhone 17, for example. No problem, unless you start moving. And that's where, luckily, there's the HubSpot Tiny 3 Trolite, a real mini turret camera. It will take care of always keeping you in frame by itself. Even if you move around the room, you move, it will move with you, it will follow you. If you turn, it will turn too. If you go up to the ceiling, it will follow you to the ceiling. If you fall to the floor, it will follow you too. Is it magic? Not at all. It's just extremely precise thanks to artificial intelligence that will capture all your movements in real time. And all of this will allow for the production of a high-quality 4K image and a zoom. If you need to be closer to your audience, whether you're testing an iPhone, doing a tutorial, a meeting, or even streaming, this little camera will do the job of a cameraman for you. You won't need to ask for help to film yourself anymore, even if you're moving. And as you know, a great image isn't enough. You also need great sound. Well, this OBS Spot Tiny 3 Lite is also very well equipped on that side. Here's an audio recording with the internal microphone of the Tiny 3 Lite with this 360 capture. Normally, it isolates the voice, especially from the room's echo. So, there's no need to have an external microphone anymore. It will sort out the background noise and what you're saying all by itself. As a result, you get clear and crisp sound, and it's super easy to use. It plugs in via USB-C. It's compatible with iPhone, Android, Mac, and PC. Basically, you just plug it in, start it up, and you're good to go. The base is really stable. You can put it anywhere. But it still has a non-slip pad, so you can put it on a tripod. And this base opens up, so you can attach it to your laptop screen. Are you interested in this OBSpot Tiny 3 Lite? If you want more information or want to buy it with the code NORTEC5, you'll save a nice little amount. So, if you want to take your videos to the next level, the link is in the description of this video. And we want to thank OBSpot for allowing us to bring you this video. Bidi bidi bid, thank you, hello, goodbye. First, let's talk about design, what we call the look and feel in English. Well, you'll get exactly the same thing as the iPhone 16. Look here, I do this, you have exactly the same one. Actually, I don't even know which one is which anymore because they're both white. We were really dumb. I have to turn them on to see. Okay, this one is the 17. In terms of size, it's exactly the same. Even the cases are compatible. Still the same aluminum frame, the action button, no photo button. We have the same 6.1-inch screen size. The only difference, but really you have to look for it. The 17 is 3 grams heavier. You're going to have to work out at the gym. But in terms of design, last year I kind of accused Apple of being stingy, of being a bit cheap by removing MagSafe. The good news is we have MagSafe on the 17. And I think it's important to talk about it because MagSafe is, at least for me, part of the iPhone experience. MagSafe is wireless charging, but it's also about the accessories. And I thought it was really a step backward to charge wirelessly the old-fashioned way by just placing your smartphone like that. Now, this isn't the fastest MagSafe in the world. It's slower than the MagSafe on the rest of the iPhone 17 lineup. And Apple has also added two things to the design. First, a new color. It's true that the 16 was really boring. It was either white or black. This year, you can also choose a very pale, very light pink that would go extremely well with my shirt. There's a clear casting mistake with this 17th. The other upgrade is ceramic shield from 2 generations ahead, offering scratch protection, always useful. Isn't it a bit disappointing that Apple keeps the same design between the 16th and the 17th? Well, actually no, because that's where Apple saves money on production. That's how they can guarantee the price of the 17th. By keeping the same design and the same basic components, Apple can mass produce this 17th at much more controlled prices. And in a way, those who complain that Apple releases a new iPhone every year, well, this series is actually an example that Apple doesn't really release new iPhones every year. They make a few iterations on a proven design that's already paid for. These are clearly not iPhones that we're going to change every year. Let's talk about the screen. And here, I'm anticipating a big uproar in the comments. It's the same screen as the 16. We have the same notch, we have the same size, we have the same technology, we have the same nits, and we have the terrible 60 Hz. It's an absolute scandal in 2026. While you can easily find 120 Hz in the Android world, and even if you buy used iPhones, you'll at least get 120 Hz. Well, I'm going to tell you exactly the same thing as last year, and the year before, and the year before that. This iPhone isn't aimed at people who know what a screen refresh rate is. Same thing. This 17E isn't aimed at people who like to buy used iPhones to get better deals. This iPhone 17E is aimed at buyers who just want an iOS experience with a brand new smartphone with the maximum warranty that will support the maximum number of years of updates and all that for an affordable price. And I'll say it again because I experienced it again this year. This 60 Hz only feels shocking if you know 120 Hz. This iPhone will be bought mostly by people coming from older iPhones where everyone was using 60 Hz. So their eyes won't burn with 60 Hz, especially since, once again, iOS is pretty well optimized when it comes to animations. And that's a deliberate choice by Apple. They know very well that tech enthusiasts are going to complain about this 60 Hz, but they don't care about tech enthusiasts for this smartphone. That's not their target audience. And technologically, it's actually a smart choice. A 60 Hz screen uses less battery. It allows them to use a slightly less powerful processor because, for example, for video games, being limited to 60 Hz means you don't have to push the game to its limits. If you remove a GPU, it's not too noticeable. It still ensures a comfortable experience without the device overheating too much. Apple keeps what works on a screen that's already paid off. It's an excellent OLED. The colors are the same as last year. They're really, really good. The brightness, while not extraordinary, is good, so we have the same old notch. Apple doesn't consider the dynamic island to be part of the iPhone 2026 experience. Yes, for those who know the dynamic island, it makes for a slightly degraded experience, especially when watching videos. But Apple actually focused on the two things that seem essential to them in a true iPhone experience: facial recognition and color quality. The rest would have led to extra costs that don't fit this product. And that's something we'll see in terms of performance. This iPhone 17e is indeed equipped with the A19 processor, but be careful. It's not exactly the same processor as the one in the iPhone 17 and 17 Pro. This one has one less GPU core than the iPhone 17. According to the benchmarks I've seen, the difference is about 18 between the processor in the 17E and the processor in the 16E. I'm not here to dispute Apple's numbers. I'm here to tell you about my experience. Honestly, I didn't notice any difference compared to a 16E in daily use. Maybe in video games you get a sense of something more stable that doesn't push the device to its limits as much. That said, I have no doubt that this iPhone 17e will support at least 5 to 6 years of iOS updates without breaking a sweat. And since Apple has beefed up the neural processor, especially on the GPU side, we should have something that runs Apple Intelligence comfortably. If one day we have Apple Intelligence that runs properly. But that's another story. As for storage, we also have good news with this 17e. Where the 16E started at 128, we have 256, and that's at the same price. And that's where there's a real feat on Apple's part. While other manufacturers are panicking because RAM and all types of memory are getting more and more expensive, Apple can afford to doubling the memory size without changing the price. It's really thumbing its nose at the market, and of course they do this while keeping their sacrosanct profit margin. When it comes to photo and video, we need to be very clear about one thing. If you buy a 17E, you're not buying it for photography or video. But that doesn't mean the photos and videos aren't good. In fact, in terms of camera hardware, it's exactly the same as the 16E, same lens, same sensor. So be careful not to get confused here either. It looks like the main sensor on the iPhone 17 and 17 Pro, but the sensor itself is smaller. Actually, what changes on this 17E is the image software processing. The difference can be pretty subtle. It really depends on the photo conditions. But I still notice an improvement in portrait mode. The subject cutout is definitely better. It looks a bit more natural. Even though it was already pretty good on the 16E, it's still better on the 17E, and for night photos, there's a slight improvement. But all this to say, like I mentioned at the beginning, you don't buy a 17E for its performance, at least not for its photo flexibility. There's only one sensor lens combination. You're limited to one focal length plus a hybrid zoom. You don't have any advanced photo profiles, you don't have RAW, but that doesn't mean it takes bad photos. Remember, a photo is mainly about subject, framing, and composition. But it's more of a device that's made for taking instant photos easily. And honestly, that's what a lot of people are looking for. You see, on this 17E, you can switch to 48 megapixels and crop your image, but I don't think there are many 17E users who actually crop their images. So the photos it takes, and here you can see some examples, especially the beautiful sakura from the park below. Don't think I took a trip to Japan just to test the 17E. But if a sponsor hears me, I'm up for it. However, where I think the offer, especially considering the price, is really excellent is for video. We don't really care about 4K 60 and all that. Filmmakers know that's not what's important. What I really admire about Apple is the quality of the codec, the quality of the stabilization. It's the adaptability of the image. We really get super clean results, totally usable in productions using footage from other cameras. And actually, I can really see a whole new generation of content creators using this 17th, because I don't know if you realize, but for the price of an iPhone 17 Pro, you can get an iPhone 17e plus a MacBook Neo to do the editing, which is really not bad for starting your TikTok, YouTube channel, and so on. The only regret I have when it comes to photo and video is that Apple didn't put the excellent selfie camera found on the 17, the 17 Pro, and the R. I think this new selfie camera is part of the iPhone experience in 2026. But I still understand that for cost reasons, Apple didn't put it on this 17E, but it's a shame for content creators. They love this new selfie camera. So yes, some people will say it's really a shame not to have an ultra-wide angle or a telephoto lens, but once again, you're not the target audience for this 17E. For the same price on the second-hand market, you can get an iPhone 16 or even a 15 Pro. You'll have a much more versatile iPhone in terms of image quality and battery life. Well, I found it better than on the 16E, and yet physically, it's the same battery, if I'm not mistaken. The fact that the processor is 3 nanometers, the fact that the screen is limited to 60 Hz, there are a whole bunch of small hardware adjustments that Apple made to slightly reduce the power consumption of this iPhone 17e, and it works. It's true that we often find ourselves in the evening with more battery left than we expected. On the other hand, for cost-saving reasons, well, the charging is still very slow. It's old-fashioned charging. We had a similar issue with the MacBook Neo. Good battery life, but it recharges slowly, which we're not used to anymore. If we've had smartphones that charge faster, this isn't an iPhone you can just recharge at the last minute if you're low on battery. What also contributes to the battery life is a bit about the connectivity, especially this new modem. Last year with the 16e, we had the C1. Now it's the C1X. It's better. It uses less power. But otherwise, in terms of connectivity, Apple hasn't changed anything. You have the same Wi-Fi, the same Bluetooth. It's still a pretty slow USB for files. But anyway, once again, this isn't an iPhone made for handling large files. The young content creator who uses this iPhone, for example, as a camera, might prefer to work in 1080p rather than 4K. As you can see, this iPhone 17 is interesting. It's not interesting for me. It might not be interesting for you, but it's probably very interesting for people who won't see this video, so don't hesitate to share it. I think that this year Apple made better choices than last year. They saved money on the production of this 17e, but they cut less from the art of the iPhone experience. The MagSafe, the increase in base storage. We have a simple iPhone experience, but it's less of a cheap iPhone experience. So yes, the tech enthusiasts watching this video, you'll think it's more worth it to buy a used iPhone 15 Pro or an iPhone 16 because at least you'll have two lenses. We'll have better screen refresh rates and this and that, and I agree with you. I really encourage you on this channel to look at the second-hand market, to make tech products last as long as possible, to give them a second or even a third life. That's very tech your time. But I also understand that some people don't want to bother. The second-hand market is a bit tricky. You can have some really bad experiences. It's not always compatible with the small business invoice either. And then there are people who want the maximum warranty. And there's also the pleasure of having a brand new product. I think actually the kind of people who will buy the iPhone 17 might be those coming from the iPhone mini. They won't get the great size of the mini, but they'll find the simple, light, and efficient side again. And that's what also sets it apart from the iPhone R. During my test of the iPhone R, I said that Apple would have a hard time making the 17e since the iPhone R is also a minimalist iPhone in terms of experience. But that's where it stands out. The iPhone R will be a minimalist experience, but a bit luxurious with its slimness and finishes. That's where the iPhone 17e will be more of the essential iPhone, the essence of an iPhone, and all of that at an affordable price. Now you'll still need to compare because since the iPhone R didn't do too well, its prices tend to drop on the second-hand market. So that could also be a real option. Actually, I think this iPhone 17e should have been called the iPhone 17 Neo. And Tim, if you want someone in marketing, I'm here to tell you that it would be essential for you to reposition your products. None of it makes any sense, and there would be a real opportunity to make the iPad Neo, the AirPods Neo, the iPhone Neo, the MacBook Neo, you get it, and the Apple Watch Neo. We can already see this with prices. If you buy this entry-level Apple product, the difference compared to the high-end ones, which are the Pro and the Ultra, the difference is about 13,000 euros. And I think this word Neo is very fitting because it means new, a new person entering the Apple ecosystem. It wouldn't cannibalize the Air R lineup. They'll go for the Pro or the Ultra depending on their needs or their bank account. It's very interesting to witness this transformation of Apple, a brand we used to know as the expensive brand. Right now, it's brilliantly adapting to the market. A real slap in the face to manufacturers struggling to lower prices. We'll see, but I'm almost certain that Apple will gain market share in 2026 and 2027, and they won't do it by focusing on the high-end segment. And since we're talking about the crisis, I invite you to watch a video if you missed it. What would happen here in Europe if the Americans decided to cut off the entire internet? It's a bit of an anxiety-inducing exercise, but well, it's good for us. Tell me what you think in the comments about this iPhone 17e. Don't forget to subscribe for more videos because we'll see each other again very, very soon for the next video.